Hey, how you doing?
Hello. Okay, yeah.
Good, good.
I've got my earphones in today because my eldest still hasn't made it to school yet. So he's pottering about, but we should be all good.
That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
Same old
How you
thing.
doing?
All right, yeah. Yeah, good. Tired. How about you?
No, I'm fine. I was about to complain, but because that's just how you do things, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not a conversation with complaining. But no, I don't really have anything to complain about.
Excellent. That's good news. Yeah. So obviously I've taken up a few extra shifts because it's Christmas. So I'm at the cafe on Sundays as well at the minute, and I'm just tired now.
How
But it's
was the dog centre?
Dog Santa was amazing. So we had this lovely lady come in. She came in a little bit early, and she's like, "Oh, is this the right place for Dog Santa?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." She's like, "Oh, brilliant!" And like, she's telling me all about her elderly Chihuahua, and how her Chihuahua hadn't been well for the past year, and how she had to get him to see Dog Santa, because it might be his last opportunity. And then later on, she'd been in to see Dog Santa, and she popped a little video on Instagram of her little Chihuahua running around having so much fun, and she's like, "He's like a new puppy again." And
Oh, it's
obviously
so cute.
Bitsy's response is, "This is why we do it." It was just lovely.
This is amazing. So just in case nobody listened last week, so you work in, we have loads of other jobs, but one of your jobs is
Yep.
working in a local little cute, really artisan, really amazing cafe.
Yeah.
And one thing she does is dog cafe, dogs meet
Dog
Santa,
Santa.
which is basically like Santa for kids, but Santa for dogs.
Yeah.
And but which is amazing, and I just think it's amazing.
Mhm.
But what the story you just told is just so lovely, and that's what hospitality industry
It
is all about.
absolutely is. It just facilitating those little special moments, and it's
But also
lovely.
letting people be part of a community, but
Yeah.
without like it feeling forced
Mm.
or difficult. It's a reason to be with
Yeah.
other people. You just have these excuses so that you can be with other people. And
She was one of the first people in that day, and just had a lovely little chat with her, and it was just really nice, and so happy to see how happy it had all made her, and just be a little part of that.
and this is I just think this thing, like we talk about this a lot in hospitality, about how difficult it is to recruit people into it as a career, because people don't see a value in it, and everyone just thinks, oh, it's just a job, it's just your stopgap job, or it's just your job before you go and get your proper job, or it's your but then if you think about it at all, the value that hospitality adds to society and to communities and to individuals, and the well-being that comes with that is amazing. And so we have this really a taken for granted role in society. But also, just even in terms of like as an employee or somebody who works in the industry, the well-being you get from that, and it's amazing, isn't it?
It really is, because this is obviously one of my other jobs. Is I'm a mental fitness mentor, and I started sort of getting into that properly this week as well. But I remember mentioning to one of my colleagues at the cafe about how basically that was my other job. I'm working the cafe a couple of days a week, and I'm also a mental fitness mentor. She's like, "Oh, those are really different jobs, aren't they?" And she was sort of like looking up to my mental fitness, like, you just got the vibe that she thought, "Oh, mental fitness mentor, that's a proper job." And I was like, it's not really that different. You're using all the same skills. All the skills you're learning here are things you can take on to whatever job you do next. And all of it's just about being with people and talking to people and communicating with people. And one of the main reasons I'm determined to make Bitsy let me stay there for as long as I would stay there forever if she'd have me. Just doing a couple of days a week, it's so good for me. It's just so nice to go in and just do a job, and you see the immediate impacts of that. And you see the smile on someone's face, and the conversations they're having, and the couple in the corner who are on their first date and things like that. And it's lovely, and I don't ever want to not work there. But I practically begged her for the job, to be honest. I couldn't wait, particularly after all COVID and being stuck at home and all of that. Getting back out there and being part of a community, as you say, it's lovely.
Yeah. Well, it did take me a long time to realise that value that I was getting out of it. I just knew I loved it, and I didn't know why. And then it sort of after sort of years of doing this, just gone, oh, that is
Okay.
why. Because I
Yeah.
like making people feel happy
Yep.
and special, and you can do it every interaction on every single day, and you don't really get that anywhere else.
No, as I say, it's that immediacy as well. It's right there in front of you, and you were in the middle of it, and it's lovely. Yeah.
Anyway, back to the podcast and hospitality 1001 epic fails.
Mm-hmm.
So really the question is, where's this going now? Because
Well, I was thinking, obviously, on the Sunday we had the Christmas market, and literally we were understaffed. It was a tiny team anyway, but we were understaffed, and there was nothing we could have done to prepare for that. And literally, it was just queues out the door all day, and it's constant. And obviously, things go wrong, and there's just absolutely no way something isn't going to go wrong. And particularly at this time of year, when you just got no way of gauging who's doing what and when, and it's just what sort of things we have going wrong, and how we deal with those unexpected things where you just can't plan for it, and how you bounce back from those situations, and what sort of things have you had go wrong when you've been in hospitality, and how have you dealt with them?
oh, there's plenty has gone wrong. I mean, it's always going wrong. And I was actually, I think this is the thing about hospitality, is that you're always on edge, and you've always got this sort of this adrenaline constantly pumping, because you just don't know when you're going to be required and what's going to be needed next, and what might change, and so it's a constant. And I spent a career trying to put in place systems and put in place order so that we could avoid as much unexpected
Yep.
things, as be always prepared. And I just think, after 30 years of doing it, you just go, it can't be done. It just, you can't, because you can have everything in order in one thing and they go, brilliant, well that never happens again, and then something else happens. But I was when you're thinking about Christmas, I remember in my first bar, it wasn't city centre, but it was in just outside the city centre, so it was sort of still very, very densely populated area of town, and we were a cool, trendy bar back in the noughties, but right directly opposite us was this really, really rough pub, and it's pretty much the roughest pub in the whole of
I'm pretty sure I remember plenty of stories about
I mean,
bad things happening there.
it was so rough that apart from anything, when I first opened the bar, everyone was like going, are you sure that there's that pub opposite? Are those customers not going to come over? And I was like going, no. If I make mine basically nice enough, and put the prices were slightly higher than everywhere else, it will intimidate people and they won't come in, and we'll be absolutely fine. And for the main, that's true. That was true. I mean, it was sort of it was great in theory, but there was a little bit of me going, oh, what if not? How am I going to deal with people basically wanting to come in and disrupt my business and my customers, and sell drugs and do all of that? But fortunately, the theory did actually come in the main. I mean, there were a couple of occasions where I just had to step in a few times with the odd person came over. But I remember one Christmas, and it was a Christmas Eve, and it was, so we'd been open a couple of years, I think, and sort of lived opposite this other pub, and there was loads of fun occasions just sort of sitting there in the window watching the comings and goings in the other pub. It was quite good fun, but we'd sort of lived there quite in harmony with this other pub, and we hadn't bothered them, they hadn't bothered us, and that was fine. But then there was one Christmas Eve when they had decided that pub had decided to close at like 4:00 to reopen later, at 6:00, and I don't know whether they were putting a band or something odd, I don't know, but it was sort of like, we'll close. And so there's a 2-hour gap when they were closed, and their customers sort of like got thrown out onto the street with the expectation that they were supposed to come back later to whatever event was going on. And they obviously didn't want to do that. So they all decided that they were going to come over to our bar and have a drink there for the only 2 hours. But because there was lots of them all together, they was all sort of brave enough to come into our place. And so all of a sudden, I mean, I wasn't there when they all walked in because I lived upstairs, so I was probably on a break or something. But they all came in together and basically took over the whole place, and our atmosphere just massively changed from this really cheerful, happy Christmas, woo, all these lovely people drinking, you know, really nice coffees and cocktails and sitting there sipping their drinks and being nice, and to suddenly all these people who very obviously, very instantly did not fit in at all and came in aggressively because they were, you know, and I understand the psychology. They're sort of they're intimidated by our poshness, but they but all en masse, they sort of came in and said, no, we're coming in here. This is where we're coming to drink. And my staff just went, yeah, okay, fine. Because actually, why not? You know, not trying to discriminate against them. I'm not saying you can't come in. So they came in, they had their drinks served, and then they sat there. And there's just the whole atmosphere in the whole place. There was no trouble. There was nothing was going wrong. But I mean, so obviously I get called straight away. So I'm down there straight away and I'm monitoring the situation. And I've got these male members of staff literally gone off to hide because they don't know what to do with themselves. They're like, I'm scared, I don't know what to do. And so I stood there going, okay, so what's actually going on here? And you go, okay, well, the atmosphere's changed. There is a thing, but nobody's doing anything wrong. My customers are sitting there looking around going, is this okay? Are we all right? Is there going to be a problem? And the place is full. We still got Christmas tunes on in the background. And then you just you can just sense there's just something growing, something building. So these people have all come in and now they're here having a drink, sitting down, taking over all the space. And they look around and they can see we're a tiny little bar. They can see they've pretty much taken over. And they're absolutely fine, but you can just sense there's something brewing. And then, you know, a couple of them like stand up, start getting a bit noisier, they're getting louder, and I'm still sitting there going, is there still a problem here? Because probably there isn't, but you can feel it. And then a couple of them sort of start picking up chairs and saying they're going to throw them through the window, and they're sort of joking, but they're also sort of not joking, and then you're going, okay, right, we have to step in. So, but then you have these questions like, do I step in and tell them they're not welcome? So creating a conflict, or do we joke with them, whatever? And so it just, you know, but I do remember all the staff sort of scattering because they didn't know what to do, which was actually totally fine and fair. But I think that's the thing of like when you're the owner or the person in charge, this responsibility of having to step up and go, okay, look, I may be the littlest person here.
Which you always were.
And I'm probably actually the youngest at the time because I can't have been more than 25. And you've got these great big men who are aggressive, and actually that is their manner. They want to be aggressive, and actually they're now trying to actually, you know, they're getting quite territorial. And so, you know, and then you're trying to intervene with it and you're going, okay, how do I best handle this? But I think this is the thing about sort of running hospitality, this having to think on your feet and having to constantly be aware and assessing the situation, and there's no way you could plan for that. We'd had, you know, probably by then 2 years of living in harmony with these people, and they'd never come across, and they'd never been an issue. And so you're sort of you're trying to work this out. I think ultimately in the end, you know, you just sort of use your tactics like, okay, you members of staff, you stay behind the bar, you're serving, that's not a problem. My job is to be out there, you know, my face there and talking to people. And so actually I think the answer in the end was basically, you know, I sort of walked around doing a lot of glass collecting. a lot of making eye contact with people and chatting to people and trying to sort of go, look, come on, this is fun, isn't it? We'll still keep the cheerfulness. Woohoo, everything's fine. Yeah. But perhaps put the chair down. No, Christmas, woo, isn't it great? And I think I think, and also I think this is a really key thing that I learned quite early on, that when you've got customers that might be difficult and you can see it and you have to be aware of it. I a very part of most of my job, certainly back then with the sort of a city bar, was always assessing the situation and trying to work out, who might cause trouble and just being ahead of it all the time. But the best tactic I always found as a small woman who's never going to physically be able to get involved in anything was to be de-escalating through making eye, because I think once people have made eye contact with you, and it's very difficult for them to then get aggressive towards you. And if they're not going to be aggressive towards you, but you're putting yourself in between you and whatever their object of that would be, then they've got no choice but to back down, and you keep giving them opportunities to back down as well. Like, I'm being totally non-confrontational here. Problem? What's the problem? There's no problem here. But certainly when the other place opened and they all went, oh, it's open, and ran. Like, oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness. Back normal service resumed. You just have this tenseness and that's created by an atmosphere, by nobody's actually done anything yet, and certainly as the person in charge, the owner or the manager, it is absolutely your responsibility to deal with that, because you can't. An 18-year-old member of staff can't get involved in that. It's not fair. They don't have those skills. They don't have the responsibility for that, and you are definitely not paying them to do that and to deal with that. And certainly my job is to protect the staff and the customers, but also the brand, the reputation. Something kicks off and people go, you're the venue where that thing kicked off. It's really, really damaging to your business, particularly in that case where that was a lovely little a city community, really young. Our customers there were all under 30. That was our we were very, very young, but they were under 30 homeowners.
Yeah, back in the day when you could do that.
Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. But under 30 homeowners with a bit of disposable income. I mean, that's absolutely how long ago it was.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, those are the sort of, you can't plan for that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I was going to say, I do recall in that first venue that I don't know whether it was as a result of that or whether you were doing it before then, but it had been sort of the supervisor's role, or the manager or supervisor, whoever happens to be on shift that day, it was their role on a busy night to be out glass collecting. And people think that's a really easy job, and you should get someone low paid to go and glass collect while you do the high paid bits. But actually being out there, just seeing people, smiling at people, making sure you're aware of the situation is actually the most valuable thing that the managers and supervisors were able to do at that time. Just manage it, because even when obviously you don't have a whole pub full of people come and descend on you, even on those Friday and Saturday nights with your regular customers, people getting overexcited, you still need to keep an eye on them and remind them that we are, we're a community. You're all right, just behave. There was a lot of that. I remember many times having to tell regulars to behave, but very, very. But by this time I was smiling. Having to tell people to behave. Who many of who, because obviously I'm a little bit younger, who were sort of 10 years older than me, but they were familiar with me, and by that point it was all really comfortable. And as I say, I was smiling. So yeah, but that role is really important.
Yeah, but that's a really interesting point, because I think that's where I learned that and I've done it in every venue ever since. I mean, that the most senior member of staff is the person on the floor, not the person behind the bar. You never put your most senior person behind the bar, because somebody needs to be in charge, particularly if you've got bar pub scenario where it is drinking and those kind of things. Then one person needs to be constantly on the floor, watching what's going on, checking for misbehavior, basically so you can nip things in the bud before they're I could think one of over in 30 years, only one occasion where we've really had trouble within the place, and bearing in mind that most of my places have been city centre, so there's this city bar, and then there's one after that was city centre. To have had no trouble at all was basically testament to the fact that we basically work the floor properly. That we always had somebody out there, basically, the glass collector. So if ever I worked, it was always on the floor, glass collecting, and basically, making sure that people were behaving properly, people weren't doing things they shouldn't have been doing, and managing that. And I think that's something that gets missed by sort of the public sometimes. They don't understand how much work goes into managing that environment, and not just making sure that the staff are doing their job properly, but also making sure that the customers are interacting in a way that is reasonable and not interfering. Because you inevitably, and I mean, and sometimes it's actually a member of my family will be, get somebody who's a bit loud and potentially beginning to swear, and you'd always have to go to the staff. Look, when that happens, it's not that person is going to cause trouble, but if you do not nip that in the bud, that will just get louder and more drunk and more that person will begin to have more confidence about that behaviour because you haven't stopped it, and therefore that behaviour's got a risk of getting out of control. And so basically, as soon as you see it, you just say, come on, gently and without confrontation. But gently without confrontation, just remind people that you are there basically policing this, and that actually that there is a line that you will not let them cross. And I think if you can tell them that way before that ever happens, then you avoid it always. But I think that's a really interesting point that that a lot of the job is doing that.
And obviously that goes across for sort of all different areas of hospitality. It's just obviously if you're in a bar in a place with alcohol, everything just becomes amplified, and tends to get messier as time goes on, and more potentially difficult. Because I
do think that's the same, but it's the same as restaurants, and I think maybe maybe I sort of had a natural instinct towards that because my background in restaurants is a work in Michelin star restaurants where where you have the maitre d', and that is the maitre d's job. The maitre d's job is to greet people and to be the face of it, but also to manage everything that's happening on the floor. So with the person that you come in, you get welcomed by this person takes you to the table, and then they assign you to whoever's looking after you. But they are constantly, and I know because I think it's probably my favourite job. Maitre d' might be my favourite job, because you're stood there and you are managing. I've just thought of another job I love as well, but there, and you are managing the whole floor, and you know every single customer, exactly where they are in their experience, exactly their journey, what they're doing next, and you're constantly, you're taking another customer to a different table, but you're constantly checking on all of those other customers, and you've got it all placed in your head, and it's all like, okay, I know where that customer is, why, they've been waiting a long time, okay, and you're totally managing everything about that experience. And again, I think that as a customer, if someone's doing that well, you wouldn't know they were doing it. But I think that it's interesting, isn't it, that that actually some of the best experience. I mean, I love it. I go to a restaurant or anywhere now, and I'll sit and I'm watching the staff. I go, how's that working? So what's your role? And sometimes these days, even in casual dining, it works. And that's still work, particularly high volume, that you've still got somebody who knows what's going on all the time. I was just going to say, my other job I love is also the pass. So front of house on the pass.
Yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know, the pass is you have your chefs, and they are all, there's a kitchen, they are all serving all your meal to go onto what is the pass. But on the other side of that, you have someone from front of house who's doing the exact opposite, so mirroring it. So it's the point where the kitchen meets the front of house.
Yeah.
So the kitchen deliver to the pass, and then the front of house take from the pass out to the restaurant. But that person, so I used to love working the pass. That person doesn't ever get seen by the restaurant.
Yeah.
So if you're front of house, which I'm front of house pass, doesn't get seen by the restaurant, but knows everything. They know who's eating what, where, what time, and where they are, and how long they've had their starters, and when the main course is about to go. And they know everything, because their job is to make sure that the chefs don't have to raise their voice. And the chefs across.
Very important job. Don't stress the chefs.
Yeah, and I think that was really interesting, because with the last pub, I ended up having to work as a chef in the kitchen, and I'd sworn for 25 years up to that point, never would I do that job, because it looks horrible.
Yeah.
I just thought, no, I don't want to do that. I'll do every other job in a restaurant, but I never want to have to work as a chef. And then I ended up in a situation where there was no staff, literally no staff at all, not a single member of kitchen staff, not even a pot washer. So it was me or nobody. And I went behind that, and I was absolutely terrified. I was like going, okay, look, I know how to cook for my family. I know how to do all of that. But I have, and I've worked in the kitchen plenty of times. I've pot washed, I've done commis, I've chopped things, I've got things ready. I know how a kitchen works, and obviously I've really experienced on the past, but I'd never actually head chefed. And literally I was developing a menu from scratch. There was nothing set up, and I was like going, I don't think I can do this, but you just have to do it. You have to, and that's the thing about the industry. Sometimes you just have to do stuff. But it was what I found most interesting about it, because I had always thought that chefs were just by nature just grumpy people. I was like going, but my job's stressful too. I've just described the job of the maitre d', or the job of the manager, or the job of the person on the pass. It's really stressful to be, and you're constantly pumped with adrenaline, because you don't know what's going to happen next. But chefing was just like a different. I think I described it as like trying to, because not only are you cooking a meal, everyone, okay, I can cook a meal, right? I can cook a meal. But you've got a table of even 6 people, and they've got 6 different dishes. And it's not that you have to cook 6 different meals. It's that you have to cook 6 different meals and get them all on the pass, hot, all together at exactly the same time. Yeah. And it's just and so you have to, so if anyone can imagine, I'm listening to now when people are talking about having to cook Christmas dinner, and it's exactly the same thing, right? Because you've got so many elements to Christmas dinner, and you can hear people going, oh, I get so-and-so, and I'm sitting there going, but it's nothing compared to when just serving a table of 6 in a restaurant.
I was going to say that. Yeah. That's just one table.
One table. That's exactly it. So you've got to get this one table. So you've got to know your timings. You've got to know, okay, a pie takes 25 minutes, but the mash takes 3 minutes, and the gravy will take another minute on that. But I've only got those 2 things to heat that, and I've only can do that. So I've got to do that in a particular order, and that's just one dish. And then you've got to do that for 6 dishes. And then what happens is a table of 4 comes on as well.
Yeah.
So now you're doing all of that with all your time. It's like an internal spreadsheet of timings. So my husband's just bought himself an air fryer, right? So I know I had he bought a double air fryer, right? And he's got this thing. So you set one up with, okay, this is the temperature, this is the time on this side, and then you go, oh, and this is the temperature on this time on this side for this other item, and then you just go sync and the machine does it for you.
Nice.
Ready at the same time. And to be fair, actually, in modern kitchens commercially, this technology already exists. But when you're trying to do that in your head and trying to work backwards like that, and then more and more checks come on, and you're getting busier and busier, and now you're doing like lots of different things, and then you're looking down the line of things you've got to do, and you go, I haven't got to that check yet, but I know that there's a pie on there, and that's going to take me longer, so I'll go and put that one in now.
Yeah.
And all these things. Okay, so I was like going, okay, I can manage this. This is like playing chess and, you know, a game of cards and all this all at once, and everything needs to be done all at once. And you sort of go, okay, I can just about manage this. I'm just about got this in my head. And then a member of front of house staff comes and asks you, where's the ketchup? I'm even now, I'm reacting to it. I'm just going,
yeah.
You know where the ketchup is. And how do you say that without swearing at somebody when you've just because by someone asking you such a stupid question that they could ask anybody else, which they actually already know,
they've disrupted all
of my thinking, and now I have to start again. And so it's so difficult when you're in this zone of concentrating with so much information in your head. For them, when poor little front of house member of staff comes to you, an innocent question because you look like a nice friendly face and you happen to be there at the time, and it's very difficult to just not go, work it out for yourself. I empower you to go look for it without asking. And that would have been a polite response.
Yeah, but yeah.
I know, it was really interesting because it was experience. I did, of course, I empathised with the chefs and what the chefs were doing and all of that. But I just don't think I'd quite fathom just how much, because you do all of that front of house as well. You've got all these other things going through your head. But the thing is that I think the difference in the pressure is that if you get it wrong in the kitchen, you've burnt food. And then you have to start all over again, or you've ruined someone's meal and you have to start all over again. Whereas front of house, if all of the information drops out your head, you just need to look around the room and you can pick it up. You can just look around once and go, okay, I know where I was. So actually I've got a lot more flexibility, you know, to think when you're in front of house than you do in the kitchen. But yeah, and I just remember posting something really similar on social media about that. Like, oh my goodness, I turned into a grumpy chef, and then like listing all this my empathy with chefs all of a sudden, and just it went wild on social media. Like people going, yes, that's it.
That's what we've been trying to tell you.
Right. Yeah. But to be fair on chef, you know, there is being grumpy, but there is something very enjoyable about it in terms of getting your brain working like that. It's like doing, as I say, it's like playing chess and doing a quiz and all at once, and you're doing so much with your brain all at once. There's quite a lot of fun doing that.
Obviously you were solo in that kitchen, weren't you? So, but there's also for other kitchens when you have more chefs, it's that team work and everything there that comes into it as well that makes it even more rewarding for some. But yeah, you were stuck in that kitchen on your own, weren't you?
For a while, yeah. And then someone else came along and I didn't want to share it, and I went, no. I like it the way I like it, and I go, no, you have to give it over to someone else. But yeah, so yeah, no, it was only for a while. It was about for 9 months really that I was in the kitchen. I mean, I was only on my own for about 6 weeks, which was hideous, particularly when I didn't know the job. But I think because I'd got so much experience of the industry, and because I knew chefing, and because I knew it was much quicker for me to learn how to do that. And I also don't think my brain was as agile as it would have been when I was in my 20s as well. I think in your early 20s, my brain probably would have handled it a bit better. Didn't have the agility when I was that age.
Yeah. Anyway, let's catch up again next time, shall we? Excellent indeed. See where we go next time. All right.
I don't know where we'll go next time. We'll think.
Have a little think, see what happens in the week in between.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Lovely, brilliant. Well, hospitality's great. I mean, we're talking about all the things that go wrong, but actually, as I say, some of this is actually all the things that have gone wrong, all the challenges, and all of those that and the way it makes your brain thinks, and the way you are constantly having to analyze situations, is also why I certainly loved it for so long. And I think if I talk to other people and sort of buzz and excitement they get out of it, that is part of it. I mean, it is.
As I said at the beginning, I begged to get back into it. I literally begged Bitsy to give me a job because of all those things. Absolutely love it, and it's brilliant.
Well, lovely. Let's pick up again next time then.
Okie dokes.
Speak to you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.